This is the Winning Plays podcast on the CLNS Media Network, the leading online provider for the NBA's winningest franchise.
Winning Plays is back, and we have a special one for you here, kids. Michael Pina, now of TheRinger.com, Mr. NBA, Mr. Bill Simmons' sidekick on many a pod now, is back rejoining the show today. Michael, it's great to see you. How the heck are you?
B-Rob, I'm wonderful. How are you?
Just great. I mean, this we've been talking about doing this for a week or two here, and it's nice that we just hold out until the Celtics are in the midst of a 7-game winning streak here, with a date looming with the defending champions on Thursday as we record this on Wednesday here. So there's really there's not a lot to talk about except really good things for this team right now as they continually get back on the rise, and parts of the Eastern Conference around them are starting to wither a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up the Warriors game. I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the biggest game of the regular season for you. Is it? Is anything close?
As far as what's left on the schedule, probably not. No, this is a home game. You got 2 days off going into it, so you can really there's not they could be tired. No, this is they're geared up. The Warriors will be well rested and motivated to actually win a road game or two. That's not against the Wizards. And this is, as far as the regular season ratings go, I expect this one to be at the top of the charts.
I have a friend of mine who was, before the season, at his office, they have season tickets and they're trying to pick dibs on certain home games. And he's like, what's one game that I should absolutely go to? And the two games that popped out to me, I was like, Lakers at the Celtics. If you can get that, just go to it, whatever, of course. And then Warriors at Celtics. I thought Warriors at Celtics, Draymond coming back, Clay coming back. Obviously, the last time they were there, they won the NBA championship. A little bit of a bummer that I don't think Jalen is going to play, right? He's still out.
I bet he pops up. I mean, we'll get the injury report today. I wouldn't mind if he pops up as questionable or, he's been out a week. Okay. But no, the safe play would be not to play him, since that is, if you're coming back from an injury, this is, a tough place to ramp up, obviously, from 0 to 110.
He wants to play in that game.
Oh, he wants to play. So that'll be an interesting development in the next 24 to 48 hours. But but they're playing so well without him right now. And that's not knocking it. It's just a matter of they, the tribute to the depth and the offensive excellence kind of reaching its peak again that we saw in the first 6 weeks of the season, finally getting back to that form again.
Yeah, extremely deep. Offense is back to first place, which is not nothing when you watch a team like the Denver Nuggets just literally make every single shot. Their best player make every single shot last night against the Portland Trailblazers. Just an absolute juggernaut of a team over there. So Celtics to be back in first place in offensive rating is very impressive. I would say that, you said at the top, there's not a lot to talk about with this team right now. I do think that this Warriors matchup's very fascinating, and I don't like taking anything super meaningful from any one regular season game. There's 82 of these things, but I'll just throw the question out to you. What would you say the odds are? I think we both agree that the Celtics are the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference, even though there's a lot of really good teams in the East right now and teams that haven't figured it out, that have injuries, the Bucks, the Nets, that could easily have, they have a couple months now to turn things around and get healthy and look like the juggernauts that it can be. The Sixers are starting to figure some things out. I think Doc Rivers is doing a really good job over there. But we think the Celtics are the best team in the conference right now. And the West is just kind of wide open. You have the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Nuggets, who knows, the Pelicans. This could be definitely a finals rematch, I would say. I would not rule that out at all.
So, and this is you're all over the league now, so you're better equipped to answer this than everyone. I kind of look at what the Warriors are doing right now, and I see this, 5-17 road record, and that makes me think that it's going to be. Is it impossible for them to get back to the finals? Of course not. Is it highly unlikely? I just think yes, because of the gauntlet they're going to have to go to. But at the same time, everything's so bunched up out west that they could, if they get the right draw, it's like, who cares if they're like on the road for 3 rounds? Because if they're facing 3 teams that are unproven or just, I feel like favorable matchups for them in general, it might not matter at all. So I might be kind of over, thinking the struggles they might have on that front.
Yeah, I mean, their starting 5, like obviously they've had a ton of injuries. Their starting 5 we're turning this into a Warriors podcast.
It's the number 1 nemesis right now.
Their starting 5 is tremendous. When healthy, best 5-man lineup in basketball. I just think like when you have Steph Curry and Clay looking even better than he did last year in that playoff run and in the finals, and Draymond's having a low key, like pretty awesome year. And, this is a team that I think could be making a trade before the deadline, which is something that the Golden State Warriors don't normally do. I think that they will look to upgrade. They should look to upgrade.
I think they have to do it, like based on their personnel, right?
Yeah, they have, I just don't necessarily trust 8 guys on their team, 9 guys on their team. I don't trust any. Terrific. They've had a few 2-way guys contribute. I just don't trust them in a playoff run. So yeah, I would assume that they're going to make some moves. I think the Celtics are, there was a report yesterday. We can transition to them again on the Celtics podcast. There was a report yesterday from Shams Charania that the Celtics are interested in Jakob Poeltl. And I said to you the last time.
Didn't we talk about this? I feel like this is almost like a heated conversation between us. I feel like at the beginning.
So I'm going the other way. I'm changing my opinion. Yeah, I always watch too much Spurs basketball. I don't really know what to tell you.
You're a sicko.
I am. Less so after Devin Vassell went down. I just love watching him primarily. And I have like stock in Devin Vassell. So I watched a lot of Spurs. And Jakob Poeltl's like definitely not a stiff. He's really good. And I think the Celtics, like, they're obviously, I think that there's questions in the front court. I think that when you're going through when you want to win a championship and go through 4 playoff rounds, I don't think that Rob Williams is going to play in every game. I think that's safe to say. Al Horford is 36 years old. That's
going to be 37.
A risk. That's a risk for sure. I don't necessarily anticipate him playing in every single game. He didn't play in every single game in the last run to the finals. That like every other day game in the conference finals, stuff like that. And we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Like that's really difficult on the body. And then there's a lot of travel. I think that you would be way more confident as a team trying to win the title that should be going all in right now, and basically is in a lot of ways, with Jakob Poeltl as your starting 5, as opposed to, oh my God, like Luke Cornett starting game 3 of the conference finals against the Bucks. Like, how did we get here? I think that would be something that the Celtics want to avoid. So the Jakob Poeltl report makes a lot of sense. And what would you, just talking like hypothetical trades here now for him, what do you think the offer is that could get it done? And how realistic do you think it is that the Celtics actually make a trade like that?
Yeah, I think the odds, as far as realistic price goes, I think the cheapest he's going to go for is a lightly protected first round pick. I expect, or just an unprotected from a team like the Celtics that feel confident that that pick is going to be a bad one. I think that's a kind of a starting point right now, because when you look at the market for bigs that you could, trust to start a game in the playoffs or trust to be in your rotation in the playoffs, it's a pretty small list of guys that are making this kind of money, that are only making $9 million a year, which checks a box on a number of fronts for teams like the Celtics that have. I have
another name I'm going to throw out. I have another name that I want to throw out after we finish talking about Poeltl.
I'm eager to hear that, because that's obviously going to be bandied about soon too, I bet. But so for the Celtics standpoint, you have Gallinari's deal, so you don't have to take away someone important from the rotation, but that's a bad contract. So you have to add something in for wherever he goes. You can't even trade him to the Spurs. You'd have to trade him to a third team since they already traded him within the past year. And so you have to, I'd say it's like a first, maybe a couple seconds to get rid of Gallinari. And I don't know. And then you have you don't even have, the only piece that you even can think about moving that as value that you wouldn't mess with your rotation is a Payne Pritchard. And I just don't think that that's a guy worth moving with a pick because if you're kind of creating a problem there too by moving him. So is a rental Poeltl in your mind is that worth a first round pick? Like, I don't know, that's where things kind of dicey here, and it'll be interesting to see how that market kind of plays out for him.
Yeah. So I think it would be, 2025 they can trade, right? Because
anything after that.
Yeah. Like a lottery protected 2000. And then you get into the question of, okay, so it's not like the Celtics are the only team that might be interested in Jakob Poeltl. I mean, if I'm the Clippers, I'm sorry, I don't know if you saw the Sixers Clippers game last night. The Clippers lost at home in a game that Kawhi and Paul George both played. And I know that's against Joel Embiid, but for a team that will potentially have to go through Nikola Jokic to get to the finals, Zubats is really good, but after Zubats, I'm sorry, you can't play Robert
Moses
Covington
Brown is not doing it for you?
The Moses Brown minutes last night were just, he's just not good. So they were terrible, and he's not doing it for me. I'm sorry. So Robert Covington at the 5, Nick Batum at the 5, that's just not going to cut it. They were switching the James Harden Embiid pick and roll with small lineups and just trying to shrink the floor. And Embiid is just I'm going to bowl over whoever's on me and get to the free throw line. And that's what he did over and over and over again. It's just not a recipe for success. So I think the Clippers are a team that could be in contention. They have a first round pick. They have a lot of salary that's intriguing to move, young players to move. I think the other team in the report was the Raptors.
Yep.
And Jakob Poeltl checks off a lot of boxes for the Toronto Raptors if the Toronto Raptors are interested in making something of this season and not going in the other direction. So we'll see what they're willing to give up. But the Celtics have also been very active in their in trade negotiations over the past couple of years with going back, I guess, to the Derek White trade. You had the Noah Vonleh transaction. There was another
Wancho.
Yes. So
they love talking to the Spurs. Brad and Pop.
Exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I know that the Celtics want to upgrade at the 5. So that they have insurance for Rob Williams and Al Horford. And I don't think that they're huge fans of playing Grant Williams at the 5 for a variety of reasons. So Jakob Poeltl makes a lot of sense. And I think,
give us that other name you teased earlier.
So the other name I have is Mason Plumlee.
Whoa.
And who's low-key, look up his numbers, having an incredible season.
He had a good game against the Celtics on Monday. He would play.
He's good. He's straight up having a very good season.
Also makes $9 million, pretty much the same amount as Poeltl.
Yep, and I believe he's expiring.
Yep, expiring.
If I'm not mistaken.
He is. Do you know how old he is, Mike?
32.
Yeah, I would not have guessed he's that old at this point, but I guess he's been around a long time.
Yes.
That's 2013.
I believe he's a gold medal winner. I'm not sure. I know he played for Team USA. I can't remember if he got a gold medal or not.
I'll look that up.
So he's having a very good season. Veteran big who can, obviously he still has athleticism on dives to the rim, dribble handoff, really smart guy. You can just give him the ball at the elbows and he knows what to do. Not going to veer outside of his lane, not going to He doesn't need to post any of that stuff. Really good on offensive rebound tip outs, which is something that is beneficial in the postseason. And I just think you have I think Kornet's really cool and awesome, and he's really, I think he's a solid player for sure. I think the upgrade from Kornet to Plumlee and definitely to Poeltl, to me, is worth a protected first in 2025, just because you got to think about it like we're potentially going to go up against Embiid. We're potentially going to go up against Giannis. There's just so many guys who, Adebayo, there's a lot of really talented bigs in the Eastern Conference, and think ahead, if you do go to the finals, I think the Nuggets are as good. I just love the Nuggets, and you need someone who can bother Jokic in single coverage. You just need that, or you're just not. Their offensive rating is going to be 150. They're so good. So and they just beat the Celtics the other day, or a week ago, or whenever they did. It was the Celtics' last loss, maybe. I don't even know, but I know they beat the Celtics recently.
It was right before the Thunder debacle. But yeah, those are probably two of the worst games of the year. Jokic, because Jokic just, like you said, he just ate them up. Whether it was single coverage or double coverage, it didn't matter. And
he's the best player alive. Yeah, he's amazing. By the way, that Thunder loss, I feel is not as bad given how good the Thunder have looked since that game.
They're
a pretty decent team. They're not terrible.
As far as high motor guys, that if they're just in a rhythm, the Celtics weren't interested in playing defense that night, but even if they were, they probably would have still lost that game by 15 points as opposed to 35 points with the way that they're playing. I agree. It's a lot of fun guys on that team.
At the 5, and you're a team that has to go all in, and I think Robb is awesome and Horford's awesome, but you don't want to get into the playoffs and, like I said, have a situation where one of those guys goes down, or Robb wakes up one day and his knee isn't feeling right and he can't go in game 2 of the second round, and all of a sudden you're playing Kornet big minutes or any minutes in the playoffs. So I just think it makes your rotation a lot cleaner, and eases the burden on a lot of other players on the team in a lot of different ways. And so swinging a trade for a Plumlee or for Poeltl, I'm sure there's maybe one or two other bigs out there, but I can't think of any.
What are you giving up for Plumlee? Obviously he's Poeltl's the top dog in terms of the cost factor. The Hornets are not going to get a first for an expiring Plumlee, I don't think. So are you giving up? So is that a way
package seconds?
A couple seconds. Yeah, they have a good second this year.
I also don't think that there's a market.
Yeah, so that could
Plumlee.
Be right. So that could help too.
Yeah, there's probably not a market, and they should have no interest in re-signing him. They're not the best run organization in the NBA, so I don't know. Maybe they do have an interest for no reason, but I would assume that they don't. So, hey, do you want these 2 seconds or not? Or you want nothing? That's kind of how I would look at it. Plus, he's good, and they should be tanking. Yeah. So, play Mark Williams. That's what you should be doing. That's what they should be doing this whole time. They're the second. I think they're the second worst record in the NBA, and just were shellacked by the Celtics in back-to-back games. So yeah, I think a couple seconds should be enough. Do you have any concern with giving up on Gallo?
Only from it kind of sucks from a chemistry standpoint, I guess, a little. He's been traveling with them all year.
I've noticed.
Which is, I feel incredibly rare these days for, especially someone who's new to a team. to do all the rehab and everything on the road. It sucks. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you can let that, those chemistry concerns keep you from moving that contract if the right deal pops up, because he's not going to be available in the playoffs. People can, it's nice that even if he gets close, they're not going to ramp him up. You're not going to be able to be thrown in. It's not like he's going to have a few regular season games to get right. It's like you're going to be thrown in the middle of an Eastern Conference gauntlet, and a lot of those matchups aren't favorable to Gallinari even before he got hurt. So like that's gone. And realistically, next year, like, could he come back and be useful? Sure, but you also have Sam Hauser making 10% of what Gallo makes next year. So it's hard to foresee those two guys being in the rotation at the same point. So it sucks. I don't know. Do you think would this look bad? Will this be another, not an Isaiah Thomas situation, but like how much would they get knocked for, like, trading a guy who took a little bit less money to sign with them compared to what he got offered from Chicago? From what I heard, like, if you dump him to try to make an upgrade elsewhere for the present.
I don't think that should be a concern at all if you're the Celtics. Like, you're trying to win a championship, and anyone who looks at the situation logically would understand that this guy tore his ACL in the offseason. It's a terrible situation, like really bad luck. Is the second year a player option?
Yes. So he'll get the money regardless.
Okay. So yeah, like that's a pretty good contract for Gallo. Kind of amazing that he got a player option.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think like that, like, it clearly hasn't hurt them. Like Malcolm Brogdon shows the Celtics reportedly over a few teams that he could have gone to when the Pacers were trying to move him. I don't think that stuff really matters that much. And like the quote, it just feels like a million years ago when Anthony Davis's dad was like, "We're not going to the Celtics." It's just like, cool, dude. Well, bye. Like, I don't think that stuff really matters personally.
Yeah, I think, like anyone, when you compare the situations, like no one is going to be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to pick the Celtics because they traded a guy who's out for the year, like, in order to better increase their odds of winning a championship. Like, yeah, you can't really fault the team for that. It sucks. It's a shitty situation, but I don't think you can knock it. And going back to like the big situation, so like, okay, you can move the Gallinari contract to help you make these deals for guys making $8, $9 million, $10 million a year. And you talked about having the playoff insurance. I think it's honestly just as important now for like the regular season insurance, from the sense of like, you clearly want that one seed, you want to get the best possible draw in the East, but you also don't want to wear down Al and Rob Williams on the way to doing it. And if their best lineup right now is Al and Rob in that starting five, which I think it's pretty clear it is again, and you don't want to play Luke Cornett or Blake Griffin at like big minutes, off the bench, then a great way to solve that is find a big that can play 15 minutes a game off the bench confidently or more in the starting lineup when those guys need to take their nights off. And that not only sets you up for the playoffs, but it honestly puts Al and Rob in a better position to be healthy for the playoffs, which is going to be part of the battle here going into that grind.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the Celtics caught a break with the KD injury for sure.
Yeah.
Because the Nets were breathing down their necks and they were looking really good. Bad loss against the Spurs last night by the Nets. Don't know if you caught that one, but Ben Simmons.
I saw the box score. And I made to the bench. I mean, he took 10 shots, so good for Ben.
That's the thing about Ben Simmons. He can't win. He can't win. Like, he was attacking the rim in the first quarter relentlessly and missing layups, not drawing fouls. could have just there were several plays where he could have just kicked it out to like Seth Curry or Joe Harris wide open and he forced it. He just can't win. I don't know. But yeah, the KD injury was good luck for the Celtics. This weird Chris Middleton thing where he's just like out. I don't even know when. Is there even a timetable?
I haven't seen anything on him. Just been like, I know he had a few bad games and then kind of just disappeared. And then it's been really quiet, I feel like, which is not good signs. Weird vibes in Milwaukee. Giannis has now missed, I think, 5 in a row with a knee thing. I don't think that's like a big concern, but they're obviously better with Giannis, even though they got a huge Jrue Holiday performance last night in a win over the Raptors. Yeah, like I think preserving first place really matters, and you want home court in the finals as well. And a team like the Nuggets is rolling, and a team like, having home court against, be it the Nets, the Sixers, the Bucks, whoever it is. I do think that this cushion, they have a little bit of a cushion right now. The Celtics do. What's it like? 2.5, maybe 3 games in the standings. I'm not looking at the standings right now, but I think it's gone up a little bit more. I think we're up to 4 based on the slide so there are 4 games up on the Bucks right now.
Oh, okay. Well,
since the Nets 3-game losing streak has been timely for them.
That's a not nothing of a cushion. And so you can do the thing where, all right, Al, you're not going to play tonight. You can maybe sit him. You can maybe sit Al and Rob in certain situations if you absolutely have to. Start Grant and Blake, stuff like that. I think that against certain teams and still give yourself a good enough chance to win, because Tatum is that good. Jalen is that good. They're so deep on the wings and in the backcourt that like getting someone like Jakob Poeltl would just be to like as insurance or coming off the bench, just totally unfair. He's really good. He's a really good player. So I think he'd be worth it even if he's averaging 12 to 15 minutes in the playoffs. I've gone around from my initial disgust with the Jakob Poeltl interest the first time we spoke. I think a player like that would really fortify your rotation and make you. I don't think the Celtics are unbeatable, but I do think they should be considered like heavy favorites in the Eastern Conference. And Poeltl, if everyone's healthy and you have Poeltl, like you might be unbeatable. I don't know. Especially when the threes are falling.
Okay, so 2 questions here to wrap up on. One, on Poeltl, is there if they make this trade for him, do you see any plausible scenario where you try to re-sign him, knowing that he's going to make, and then you don't have to spend too much because this is a long way away from them and you have a chance of that, but do you obviously you have Grant Williams being a free agent, restricted free agent going into this offseason. You have Poeltl, you already signed Al Horford to the extension. You could really fortify your front court for a long time if you have his bird rights, but is it at the same time is paying a guy like that, $15+ million to come off the bench, like a smart business decision?
I think it's a really interesting question, particularly because Jakob Poeltl might make more than Robert Williams, who has basically the best contract in the NBA. What's he making next year? Like 12?
12, yeah. On a per minute basis, it's like you can't.
It's ridiculous.
Pretty good.
So, yeah, I mean, I think bringing back Grant at honestly whatever number is really important. I love Grant Williams, and I think he's just invaluable in a lot of ways as a role player on this team, on and off the court. I don't know, like Al Horford could fall off a cliff. Like, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily think that'll happen next year, but it's possible. And if Jakob Poeltl wants to sign with the Celtics, knowing that he's going to be coming off the bench, then and the ownership is willing to go deep into the tax, then sure. I mean, like, Tatum is 24. Like, eventually you're going to have to replace Horford. Hopefully, I know Jalen, that's another thing is Jalen's contract. If he makes all NBA, that's supermax eligibility. Like, there's a lot of money that's going to be owed, I think, in the years ahead. But if they want to pay, it and they want to pay Poeltl, and Poeltl's like, okay, I'll take that money. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. I don't know. What do you think?
It's like, I agree. If the budget is not if ownership is really happy to really dive into the tax, like, that's the exact kind of signing that, like, why not, to just literally fortify your front. Like, Al Horford's getting old. Like, you could use that insurance there, even if you have him around for another year or two. And even if you don't re-sign him, even having him, like, you could sign and trade him somewhere else and get another trade exception or something like that. You could do creative things. So, like, or, just maybe get something back in a deal for him, like some small asset. If, I know some teams have cap room, but are those teams that he's interested in going to? Like, who knows? So I don't think either way, I think you can get something out of it that maybe helps the return of, like, the fact you're giving up a first round pick. All right. And then the last question here. We did a lot of big man talk here. Are you trusting in Justin Jackson at the end of the bench right now? Do you need an upgrade on 14th man Justin Jackson, whether it's the buyout market or some sneaky smaller salary type trade, or is that a situation where it's like, listen, like, if Tatum or Brown get hurt anyway, they're probably screwed. So, like, what's the matter?
That's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. If Tatum and Jalen get hurt, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You're
not going to find anybody who's going to replace the modicum of their production in a playoffs run. Like, it doesn't. So I don't think that necessarily. I know Brad loves wings, 3-and-D guys, all that. I just don't think that it's worth what's potentially the cost. Giving up, I don't even know what you would like, trading Gallo for a wing. I just don't. It depends on who it is. I haven't even really thought too deeply about it, but I just don't know who would crack the rotation.
Yeah. Very few even options. The list is pretty small from, like, looking. I did a list last week of, like, potential guys in that, like, salary slot. It's just not. There's not a lot. Who
can really defend, who can slide into a switch everything scheme, who can shoot threes, who can drive closeouts. That's a very valuable player. I just don't think that player is available, that, as you said, at that salary slot. So that'd be a tough one. Justin Jackson is a 15th, 14th man, like, for a reason. Like, I don't know. Like, it just is what it is. I think potentially the front court is where you need better depth because of Robb's knee and Horford's age.
All right. Make sure you're checking out all Mike's great stuff at theringer.com. He had a great mid-season awards column. It's best week, I bet. Do we have anything coming out this week, Mike? Or did that even come out this week earlier? I forget what the timing was on that.
It did. That came out on Monday. I'm going to be writing off a game for the first time all season, I think, for Celtics Warriors, which I'm very excited about. Big game. It'll probably be a 40-point blowout, but we'll make the most of it. But yeah, this was fun, man. Thanks so much.
It's great to see you. And make sure you're checking Mike out on all the Ringer pods as well. He's popped up on the Bill Simmons podcast plenty of times already. Just great chemistry flowing between you two. It's music to my ears. So love to see it. Make sure you're following Mike as well at Michael V. Pina. But I'm sure everyone here is doing it already. That'll do it for us this week. We'll be back likely later this week with reaction to this big showdown with the Warriors and much more here hanging in the trade deadline.